What's up everybody, 40 the Broadway Saiyan here, and welcome back again to my YouTube channel, bringing you guys another video on Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia. Now before I start this video, if you guys notice that I'm not using the webcam, it's because this week is actually going to be really hot where I live in Northern California in the United States. It's actually going to be hot all week, so that's also the reason why I had to cancel my streams, because the room that I am streaming from in my house, we don't have AC, and also the insulation for my house is really bad. So when it's really hot, it's hot, and when it's really cold, it gets really cold. So unfortunately, because of all the equipment that I use and my studio lights and all that, it's just the heat's just going to be a little too unbearable for me. So that's why I'm just doing videos right now and not using the face cam, and also avoiding streaming for the time being, just because I don't want things to overheat. But anyways, hopefully you guys understand, which is the reason why you do not see me using the face cam for this video. But anyways, we're going to be talking about the upcoming character event, which is going to be featuring a brand new character for Global Opera Omnia, which is DESCH from Final Fantasy III. Now, something interesting to note for this particular event, there are no reworks or new realizations that are going to be present for this. The only new thing that we're going to be seeing is literally the character himself. So there's going to be a lot of focus on the character. Now, joining DESCH as synergy for his event is going to be Onion Knight, also going to be Young, going to be our current burst character, which is Shantoto, and this is going to be the last banner that Shantoto is going to be featuring her burst weapon in, until later on, until they decide to bring it back. And then afterwards, we also have Ultimisia, who is currently our Lost Chapters character for synergy for the DESCH event. Now, we're going to be touching up on the banner as well, and also giving you guys my overall thoughts about how I feel about DESCH's entire kit. We're also going to be covering the Chaos difficulty boss fight, as well as the Chaos challenge boss fight, and it's going to be featuring the zoo type enemies called Flumen Draco, or Flumen Draco, however you say it. It's going to be a pair of those, dragon like zoo enemies, and these ones are a little bit different compared to the zoo enemies that we've seen. So we're going to be touching up on all of that for this particular video. Now, before I get started and moving forward with this video, I always want to give a big thanks and shout outs to Rem and the Dissidia DB, because all of the lovely information that you find on this video comes directly from his awesome website. Be sure to check out his website, guys. It is a very, very useful website for all things DFFOO related. Also, big thanks and shout outs to MacNull and the Dissidia Info, which is another fantastic website that you guys can use to learn more about Opera Omnia. Also, big thanks and shout out to the Opera Omnia Tracker, which is a useful website that you could use to keep track of your progress, and also keep track of the teams that you use specifically for like Dimensions End and some of the other harder stages. And then also the Tonberry Troop, huge shout outs and thanks to them for all of the effort that they put in to create those lovely infographics summarizing what these characters do. And then last but not least, the Final Fantasy TCC podcast, giving us global players a weekly podcast to help us step up our game in Global Opera Omnia. All right, guys, without further ado, let's go ahead and talk about DESCH's event in Global Opera Omnia. DESCH, the magical swordsman from Final Fantasy III, enters the world of Opera Omnia commanding the thunder element in combination with his swift swordsmanship. In Opera Omnia, DESCH also supports the party with two different unique buffs, mitigating incoming brave damage from certain attacks. His unique buff Anti-Magic Area has an 8-turn duration, increases the party's max brave attack, magic brave damage resist, and also grants Thunder Enchant to the party. While Anti-Magic Area is active, it will cancel out his Anti-Physical Area unique buff. Anti-Physical Area has an 8-turn duration, increases the party's max brave attack, physical brave damage resist, and also grants Thunder Enchant to the party. Just like his other unique buff, Anti-Physical Area will cancel out Anti-Magic Area while it is active. Aside from these two unique buffs, DESCH also has access to a unique debuff called Ancient Techniques, which has a 4-turn duration and lowers enemies' max brave with its efficiency decreasing with remaining turns. His last unique buff is called Electric Area, which has an 8-turn duration, increases the party's elemental weakness damage, and while it's active, has a small chance to inflict paralysis for every enemy turn taken, and if it doesn't, will otherwise inflict defense down. DESCH's C65 ability is called HP Heal Advance, which has 3 total uses, heals the party's HP, and increases the party's Brave Overflow for 3 turns. DESCH's most noteworthy passives are his C50 passive, Memory of the Ancients, which increases his initial Brave, max Brave attack and defense while either anti-magic area or anti-physical area are active, his C54 passive, which increases his attack and speed while buffed, his C58 passive, which increases his max brave and attack while buffed, and lastly, his C68 passive, which permanently raises the party's max brave and attack. Moving on to his skills, Desh's skill 1 is called Blitz Shear. Blitz Shear has 7 total uses, delivers a 4-hit Thunder Magic AoE Brave plus AoE HP attack with an increased Brave damage against a single target with split HP damage, 180% Brave Overflow, heals the party's HP by 20% of the HP damage dealt, grants Anti-Magic Area for 8 turns, dispels Anti-Physical Area, and inflicts Thunder Imperil on all enemies for 4 turns. Desh's skill 2 is called Plasma Stroke. Plasma Stroke has 7 total uses, delivers a 4-hit Thunder Melee AoE Brave plus single target HP attack with an increased Brave damage against a single target, 50% HP splash damage, 150% Brave Overflow, heals the party's HP based on 20% of HP damage dealt, grants Anti-Physical Area for 8 turns, dispels Anti-Magic Area, and inflicts Thunder Imperil on all enemies for 4 turns. While Desh is buffed, he will have access to his Brave Attack++, which is a 3-hit Thunder Melee single target Brave attack, and access to his HP Attack++, which is a 3-hit Thunder Melee single target Brave plus single target HP attack with a 120% Brave Overflow. Desh's EX weapon prior to its realization grants him access to the ability Ancient Thunderclap, which has a normal recast speed, delivers a 6-hit Thunder Melee AoE Brave plus AoE HP attack with an increased Brave damage against a single target, 100% AoE HP damage, and inflicts Ancient Techniques and Thunder Imperil on all enemies for 4 turns. Upon realizing his EX weapon, he gains access to the following upgrades. 0 out of 3 increases the Brave potency of Ancient Thunderclap and now has a 120% Brave Overflow. 1 out of 3 permanently raises his max Brave and attack. 2 out of 3 grants Anti-Magic Area at the start of the quest for 8 turns, and for Desh's first turn will not consume ability usage, will have no action delay, will not increase the turn count except for friend or summon, and fills his EX gauge to 80%. Finally, 3 out of 3 further improves Ancient Thunderclap, increasing the Brave hits to 8, increasing its Brave potency, and increasing its Brave Overflow. The D-type sphere unlocked from this EX weapon is called Buff Success Raging Attack All, which raises the party's attack by 1% up to 5 times after granting a buff. Lastly, Desh's LD weapon at full limit break permanently raises his max Brave and attack and grants him access to his LD ability Electric Floor, which has 3 total uses, delivers a 4-hit Thunder Melee AoE Brave plus single target HP attack delivered twice with an increased Brave damage against a single target, 180% Brave Overflow, and grants Electric Area for 8 turns. Recommended artifact passes for Desh are 3 copies of Attack plus 108 and either Max Brave plus 330 or Memory of the Ancients up 2-star. Alright guys, so now that we've gone ahead and taken a look at what Desh can do, what are my thoughts about this character? So Desh does a lot of things. Desh has Thunder and Enchant and Imperil, which is already a plus in my book because any character that could do that is very good because they allow you to have access to a specific element and also are able to weaken enemies with that particular element, allowing your entire party to push more damage. And let's not forget, Elemental Imperil also bypasses any type of resistances as far as Brave damage goes, which can be very, very useful for this state in the game. Now, Desh also provides the party with some really nice auras coming both from his 2 unique buffs, which is the anti-magic field as well as the anti-physical field. And then let's not forget his C68 passive, which also further increases the party's max Brave and attack. So he has some really good auras in that sense that he does that for the party. And then afterwards, he also heals the party's HP after he deals, HP damage from his skills, which is a really nice touch to his kit because he is dealing primarily AoE damage to the entire, enemy team, whatever you're up against. And then another cool thing that he has is that if he's fighting against a single target, he's going to be dealing more damage because as you can see, all of his, abilities that he has, they deal more damage when he's up against a single target, making him a very flexible and versatile damage dealer. Now, one of the things that I feel like could be a little tricky with this character is that his skill 1 is magic and then everything else is, what do you call it? Everything else is physical. So that can be a little bit tricky to use in certain situations that you may come across if you decide to bring Desch to the party. So that's one of the things I feel like, maybe potentially holds his character back. And then afterwards, his LD ability, which is, really, really cool, places that electric field effect, which not only increases the party's elemental weakness damage, but it also has that RNG-based kind of an effect that triggers after the enemy's turn, where they either get paralyzed, or if they don't get paralyzed, regardless, they're going to take a defense drop. So you either get clutch out of it, or you get a defense drop, which can be useful in a lot of situations. But obviously, we would like the paralyze more, because it's always nice to be able to bypass an enemy's turn when they actually take it. So I think that's a really, really unique effect that he has. So overall, the character is solid. He's very versatile. He's pretty good for healing. He's also good for single target damage. He's good for AoE damage. He has those nice auras. He has the Thunder enchant. He has the Thunder Imperil. So he does a little bit of different things that makes him a very solid, versatile character. So after we've taken a look at that, what are my thoughts about this banner? So the way that I would approach this banner, first of all, is, obviously, if you value this character, if you value what Desch brings to the table, and you are like, you know what, I think I could use somebody that has different types of brave damage mitigation on top of Thunder Enchant and Imperil, and can also heal, then maybe the character is for you. But let's say you're taking a look at your resources, you're taking a look at your characters, and you're like, you're undecided on whether or not Desch might bring some value to your party. This is how I personally would approach it. If you already have Raijin, Raijin has some similar aspects to Desch might be a character that you might want to wait on later down the line in the future whenever they decide to bring him back, because Raijin has similar functions, and one of the big things that both of these characters bring is, the paralysis. However, with Raijin, unlike Desch, his is not RNG based or chance based. His is you build up 3 stacks, you AoE paralyze, and then you repeat building those 3 stacks, which makes his paralysis, especially when we move towards some of the harder content where that can actually be very helpful, such as Lufenia. Raijin is a lot more consistent in that sense. Now, when it comes to healing, both of them have their versions of healing. Raijin coming off of a really good HP regen, whereas Desch heals every time he does, his skill 1, skill 2, and whatnot. So you pick and choose which one you want between these two. And like I said, the reason why I'm comparing these two is because they have their similarities. Now, obviously, Desch is a little bit more, I would say, well-rounded in terms of like, okay, he could heal, he has the auras, he has, Thunder Enchant and Imperil, but Raijin can also do that too. So moving forward with this banner, for me personally, and you guys can, take this however you want, but if you already have Raijin in your party, unless Desch is a favorite, I feel like this banner is one that you may want to consider passing on. Now, there are other characters on here as well. Obviously, Shantoto is on there, so if you're still trying to get her burst and you already plan on pulling for Desch, then go ahead and try to get the burst on this banner while you're trying to get, Desch's gear. And then we also have Onion Knight, Onion Knight, at this point, while he may not be the best at what he does, which is, enchanting an element and also Imperil, he's also a solid option for that as well. And then we have Young, Young is probably the more lackluster in this banner overall. However, he does have that nice splash damage with all of his different attacks, which can make him very useful for fights where you're going to be fighting against more than one enemy. So you have Young, providing that kind of value coming from this banner. So again, overall, if you're looking for somebody that Thunder Enchants, Thunder Imperils, and you're lacking that, then this banner might be the one for you, because Desch offers a lot from his kit. However, if you already have that, such as from a character named Raijin, then this banner might be a banner that you want to pass on. Alright guys, so now we're going to go ahead and talk about the Chaos difficulty boss fight, as well as the Chaos challenge version of it against the pair of Flumen Dracos, or Flumen Dracos, however you say it. Now, I normally will have some sort of like a video footage of gameplay showing this, but because the Desch Lost Chapters has yet to come out in JP, I actually don't have, similar footage to show you for that. But in a sense, the way that this fight is going to go is Wave 1 is going to start off with those 2 fire lizards that I believe they were from the Porum event, the Palom event, the Palom event, where they like to do that resonating thing where they, bring their brave back to a certain point, and then afterwards they use a lot of like high turn rate abilities where, and then particularly they like to use dive bomb where they just hit you with like, an HP attack, especially after they get a break off of one of their skills if they have a high turn rate. So it's pretty straightforward nowadays to be able to deal with this particular wave for this Chaos boss fight. So if you're familiar with those enemies, wave 1 may not be as difficult, as it sounds, because they're enemies that we fought before. Now, when you get to the actual boss fight against the Paraflumen Dracos, they're going to have 2 different modes that you want to watch out for. And the first mode is going to be called Magia State Mode, or like their magic mode. And they actually will automatically start with this when the fight starts. So you can tell that they're in this state because they're going to have these, these orbs that are surrounding them, kind of similar to the Spark Eye enemies that we fought for the Quistis event. They're going to have these orbs surrounding them, and they will primarily be using water magic attacks. They also have an attack that, has a high turn rate, and in this state, they can also inflict defense down, and they also have ways to be able to recover recover from break and be able to hit your party with, a really powerful group magic attack. And the thing about this particular attack is that the brave hits are random. So generally when they're targeting all, try to have everybody's brave topped off, because since the brave hits are random, it's really hard to tell if somebody's going to get broken or not. And this is why DESCH in particular is very, very useful for this, because they like to switch stances. Now when they're in their physical state, they're going to be using primarily physical attacks. They will also be granting themselves brave damage resist, which is something you want to watch out for the physical state. And you could tell they're in the state because those orbs that they had in the Magia state are also going to disappear. They will have a very similar ability like they did in their Magia state, where they're going to be recovering from break, and then they're going to be hitting you with like, an AoE brave attack. And just like their other state, their, the brave hits are going to be, dispersed randomly. So you just want to make sure that you keep an eye out for everybody's brave. These bosses obviously are going to be resistant to water. They're going to be weak to thunder, and they're also going to be resistant to range damage. So if you plan on bringing some type of a range character, make sure that you're bringing somebody with thunder or with imperil enchant. That would definitely bypass that resistance to the range damage. So if you want to take somebody like Eldnarsh, for example, who could be very useful for this fight, but since his damage is resisted, bring somebody that can, enchant Imperil as long as it's not water, and then Eldnarsh will have no problem getting, past that range resistance. But this fight should be fairly straightforward as long as you're aware of the stances. There's a lot of different party comps that you can actually use for this. Amiditelion is probably the best friend unit right now that you could bring, because you could just delete their turns as long as you time it properly. You're like, delete their turns, and then afterwards they can never technically act, especially if you take a delay strategy. So you could take a strategy like with Amiditelion and Cloud of Darkness, who can work really well in conjunction, Amiditelion deleting turns, and then Cloud of Darkness being able to delay. Obviously, DESCH is going to be great for this, because not only is he synergy, but he has ways to deal with the, the different types of stances that these bosses take, so then that way he's helping your party mitigate the damage that they take. Shantoto would be good for this too, obviously, because she's synergy, and she can also drop the Omni Imperil. So lots of different ways to tackle this. Just be sure to watch out for that water resist. Don't take water elements, and if you're going to take range, take a unit that also has some sort of an elemental enchant Imperil to help your range damage dealers be able to actually deal damage. Now, as far as the Chaos Challenge goes, we have access to DESCH, we have access to Shantoto, Yang, Onion Knight, and Ultimecia. Now, the only healer from that is going to be DESCH, but since he's not really like a true healer, you might want to consider bringing maybe Alexander again, so then that way you have the Brave regen. But even the Chaos Challenge in itself is not nearly going to be as difficult, especially if you have some of these units already built. DESCH is great for it. Ultimecia, who I know most of you already have, even without her LD, can be pretty good for this fight. Just make sure not to overly use her skills in wave 1, because one of the issues, even with her LD with Ultimecia, is that she could run out of skills really fast, which means she's going to be relegated to using HP attack ++. So running her again with a Elemental, Enchant, Imperil could definitely help that out. So then that way she can rely on those more. So she's only really having to use her skills, let's say, to refresh her stacks or get a buff back up, or, you know, if you're already close to getting her EX ability, just to charge it right away so she has access to that. But overall, the Chaos Challenge is not going to be nearly as difficult if you're prepared for it. But anyways, guys, this is going to be it as far as the Chaos difficulty boss fight and as well as the Chaos Challenge for it. So now what we're going to go ahead and do is go forward to that Let's Play or How to Play, where I'm going to show you guys how to play Desch. So let's go ahead and move forward to that. Alrighty guys, so here we are with the how to play or let's play portion of the video where I show you guys how to play the characters that I was talking about. So for this one, we're only going to be talking about Desch because he is the new thing that we've gotten with this character event. Again, there are no EX realizations or reworks that we're going to be seeing with this event. So Desch is the new guy here. So assuming that you have Desch fully built up, he's immediately going to have access on his very first turn to a free skill usage. This turn as well will not be adding to the turn count, and he will have no action delay, meaning he can act immediately after this turn, and also his EX gauge will be filled to 80%. So kind of similar to like Lightning, where she has this, you know, type of a benefit when you have, you know, her EX weapon fully realized and all that good stuff. So with Desch, he also starts off the battle, assuming that you've purpled his weapon, with his anti-magic field. So this is pretty good, you know, already, because if you're fighting against an enemy that has access to magic damage, then, you know, he's already helping mitigate that. But in this sense, in this situation right here for this, you know, let's play, this boss likes to use physical attacks. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is use his skill 2. And remember, Desch's skills will always, you know, hit other targets, whether it be split HP damage or splash damage. And then if he's fighting a single target, he's going to be dealing increased brave damage. And then afterwards, he's also going to be healing the party based on 20% of the HP damage he deals, which makes him a really, really versatile character. So now we have access to his EX. We're going to go ahead and use it now. Okay, and remember, what his EX debuff does is for 4 turns, the enemy is going to have their max brave lowered. However, every time the duration decreases, that effect, you know, decreases in efficiency as well. So that's just something to keep in mind. It's a really kind of an odd way to design a debuff, but, you know, I'll take it for what it is. You know, it's still a max brave down. So we have that there, and then afterwards, in this case, since it is a single target fight, let's just go ahead and pop his C65. So what's cool about a C65 is if you're in a pinch and you're like, oh man, I need to heal, he'll also heal your party's HP. And then what he also does is he increases Brave Overflow, which is, you know, kind of a nice bonus to have there. So that's what his C65 does. So now what we're going to go ahead and do is actually go into his LD, which is his electric field. So remember, what this does is you have an 8-turn unique buff. And it's either, after the enemy takes your turn, it's either going to paralyze or it's going to apply a defense down. And if it doesn't paralyze, regardless, it's going to apply that defense down. So it looks like we're going to continuously get that defense down, which is okay. You know, it allows you to deal more damage, and we've taken some damage there. And, you know, just for the sake of the video, let's go ahead and take a look at his skill 1. I know the Gigantor likes to use physical attacks, but I just at least want to show that off. And then as you can see right there, we have access to his EX already. So his EX has a normal recast speed, so not the fastest, but it's still fairly fast, and you could see yourself having access to this quite often. So in this case, what I'm going to do is just showcase his Brave Attack ++. Pretty standard. He does several hits, but it's a great way to keep his Brave up if, like, let's say getting targeted all, or if he's getting targeted. Alright, so we're just going to go ahead and go now into his HP Attack ++. And as you can see right there, we got the paralysis off of Electric Field, so that's pretty cool. We got that paralysis. HP Attack ++ is a decent option, especially if Desch's Brave is already topped off and you don't want to waste a skill. So that's, you know, that's something that you could use as an option there. Let's go ahead and use his EX again. Reapply that 4-turn debuff. Now, something that you want to note about Desch is you definitely want to run him with a battery, because he has no way to really Brave regen himself or, like, refund himself Brave back. He will literally dump Brave on the enemy. He'll heal you, but he's not actually giving himself some Brave back. So running him with a Brave battery is something that you may want to consider if you really want to maximize the amount of damage that he does. So we're going to go ahead and just use skill 2 here. I'll just finish this fight for this demonstration, because why not? Alright, so we're constantly getting those defense drops instead of the paralysis. So we did see the paralysis trigger at least once. So that's pretty cool. Alright. And we got more than one enemy now. And as you could see, very versatile because he'll either deal a lot of single target damage if there's a lone enemy, and if there's other enemies, well, he has splash damage, split damage, 100% AoE, you know, HP damage. So very, very versatile character. Let's go ahead and use his EX again. Alright, so this fight's pretty much over. Let's just go ahead and finish it off with skill 2. But that is pretty much DESCH in a nutshell, how to play him, let's play. He's not too complicated as long as you're aware of what his stances do and what type of brave damage they mitigate. You know, he does a lot for your team as far as like versatility wise. He heals you, Thunder Enchant, Thunder in Peril, all that good stuff. So hopefully this explanation gives you guys some sort of, you know, a way to understand how this character works should you decide to build him up and use him when he comes out to Global Opera Omnia. Alright guys, well this is going to be the end of the video. Thank you always for watching and taking the time, you know, to watch my videos and showing all the love and support. If you guys are not subbed to the channel yet, consider subscribing. It is completely free to sub to me on YouTube. So then that way you guys are kept up to date with all the different videos that I like to do, primarily Opera Omnia, but I do other things on the channel as well. Thank you guys again. Stay tuned for the next video, and mahal everyone.